Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our November 2025 Idea Jam. My name is Natasha Baines, and I will be your chair for this evening on behalf of the Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity, or CNIC for short. My fellow friends in creativity and members of CNIC that are with us this evening are scattered among your screens. So if you could, committee, just give us a wave. As always, it is a great pleasure to be back in this hour-long gathering place in our video conferencing world with you. This is our place to share with you different topics, different discussions, and different ideas. Our hosts and guests are happy to be here, and we will have open discussions that flow with you afterwards. Our goal here at Scenic is to see our creativity and imagination from the different angles we see life from, recognize the different backgrounds we come from, and to create and foster open, forward-thinking dialogue. It is our hope that through our discussions that we have at each event, that we can expand our minds in new directions, collaborate through idea sharing, create partnerships in our differences, in our sameness, and in our beliefs, and then carry forward those concepts and discussions out into our worlds and into our spheres of influence. We want to find and foster our inner and outer creativity through exploration of our imaginations and ideas, and do this together with each other in our learning and listening space. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that as a resident of Clarence Rockland, Ontario, which sits just outside of the east end of the city of Ottawa, I am chairing our meeting on traditional unceded land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory. I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to do so this evening. Yesterday we stood apart, today we stand still, and tomorrow we stand together. We want you to reflect and participate in the way that you are most comfortable with and make this idea space your own. Our idea jams is our space to learn, explore, and share. We want to hear your ideas through conversation. This is a place where taking your ideas out and listening to them is what it's all about. Your thoughts, your inklings, keep the space moving forward. So this is your time to shine. Our format here is very simple. Our hosts guide our discussion for the evening. We'll open the floor to you for our chats and conversations to begin and see where our journey will lead us during our time together. Nothing is a bad idea. Every discussion point helps move the idea along. Please take this opportunity to explore and share, as your insights may be the spark that lights someone's creativity fire. Zoom is our platform of choice for this discussion. Zoom allows you to participate in many different ways. It has built-in controls that allow you to raise your hand so we can see when you wish to join the conversation. You can add things to our chat function, which helps keep the ideas and thoughts flowing, and you can share your emotions with the little emotion reactions as well. Share your ideas your way and join in the jam. For tonight's jam, we are going to be led by Mary Blatherwick and her special guest, Ian Fogarty. The topic for tonight will be Leo, Comfort on the Edge of Curiosity. So over to you, Mary.
There, sorry, just making sure my mic was on. Lovely to see everyone this evening, and it's wonderful to have Ian joining us. Ian and I have known each other as educators in New Brunswick for a number of years, both in the area of creativity and innovation. Ian comes to us as a distinguished science educator, and he's worked for 27 years as a teacher teaching chemistry, physics, and math. He mentioned in his write-up and in notes to me that his father had actually inspired him by saying that we should be teaching students and not curriculum. And also, Ian was very interested in the whole notion that we have been teaching the idea of there's only one right answer. And so that also, I think, was a great inspiration for Ian to look at how can you inspire students to come up with a number of different answers and ideas and inspire them about their learning in whatever field they might be in. And how do you make connections across different disciplines? He has done an amazing job of doing this and working in the field of science and having his students find new possibilities, explore different types of innovation, and often innovation that dealt with real world problems. And he'll talk a bit about that tonight as well. As a creative thinker, he has had his students enter the realm of curiosity and discovery. This evening, Ian will be able to share some of his experiences, his wealth of knowledge and insights about teaching and learning. And so please join me in welcoming Ian Fogarty as our guest this evening.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Mary. I didn't know that when we met at UNB and in Moncton a few years ago that we would end up here at this spot. So this is great. I'm feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome being a physics teacher and chemistry teacher in this fine group, but this is so much fun for me. So thank you for the invitation. I have a huge slide deck that we're not going to go through. I just basically wanted to have a number of pictures in case, depending on how the conversation went. And so if there's questions, I can have some things to refer to. And I'm kind of hoping that we can get to it. So I think I can go and add that and share that window and then go to there. And you should be able to see a slide deck. Is that true?
The top one. You may want to focus on the first one.
The top one?
We see both. We see the image itself, but down the side we see all the other pieces.
Oh, interesting. You don't see the...
It doesn't fill the whole screen.
Okay.
I think you just needed to start your slide deck.
Yeah, I did. So there it started now. Yeah.
I think you stopped sharing your screen.
Okay. Let's try that again.
This was working.
Let's go with the entire screen. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I'm going to click there.
Okay, now it's looking good. Yeah.
Your mic is you're muted right now.
Of course.
There's always those little things to begin.
And then we lost your screen.
Unmute. Yeah. We are having a good time here. Doesn't like to have those two things going at the same time. Okay, perfect. And now if we go there, and if we go there, and if we go there, how about that?
Yay!
Yeah,
Yay.
and you can hear me?
Yes.
Woo! All right, perfect.
Couldn't
Okay.
beat it with a stick.
All right. So tonight I'd like to talk a little bit about living on the edge of curiosity and how a visit to my brother. My brother teaches downstairs in the fine arts department. He's a fine arts guy, and how I visited him one day and it kind of pivoted how I've been wanting to teach, and then the importance of being open to weird conversations at weird times, even though you may not feel like you belong. Because it can lead to some really cool things later on down the road, even if it might take a few years for them to percolate. So my question is going to be around, is art going to be the way that we save some STEM education? And there's been this big push for a long time around standardization and from state to state, province to province, country to country, and trying to score well on things like PISA scores and AP and IB and all the things. And so the students really feel, and teachers really feel a pressure to go through content, get through content quickly, cover a large volume of things, and get the right answer. And even if you don't have a standardized test, in New Brunswick, we don't have a standardized test for our sciences, but even if you don't, that still trickles through and it still feels. And so the question that I have is art going to be able to save this STEM education thing? And so with that, the question becomes, are we becoming less creative? And ever since the introduction of the internet and specifically cell phones, which have these great tools available to us to be creative, and even someone like me can do some drawing and make some cool, beautiful looking diagrams and be creative, and also allows me to interact with a whole variety of people like never before, and be inspired by so many other people. Yet somehow, according to the Torrance test on creativity, we seem to be plummeting. We're becoming less creative. And you only have to listen to my students' music to realize that it all is kind of boiling down to something very, very similar. The same beat, the same kind of digitized music, and it's becoming very similar. And so why is this? Why is this happening? Despite the tools and the things available to us, why are we becoming less creative? And it's a complicated question that we're not going to try and answer right here. Part of it is that we don't let ourselves get bored enough, that we get these ideas in our back of our heads and they need time to percolate. And we don't let ourselves get bored enough. We doom scroll and we play our Tetris and we do whatever it's going to do while we're waiting for the bus. And then the other part is the whole thing about AI. And while it's true that AI has all of human knowledge and creativity at its fingertips, it's really just designed to go, what is statistically most probable that this word follows that word? And if you put a prompt for a dog in, what is the chances that it's a black pixel beside a brown pixel? And that leads us to kind of one set of common endpoints. And so how do we deal with this in this age of going on? This is a student who in my science class, he was very nervous about getting the right answer. He was very dedicated and very studious, and what is the right answer? And he'd get a little frustrated at me because I would often answer his question with another question, and he would just wait, like, I don't want to think. I got an answer. It's the right answer. It's time to move on to the next question because it's going to be a time test and I got it good enough. And that was typical. And then I went downstairs the very next period just to get some stuff from my brother, walked into the fine arts room, and here the same student is, and he's coloring outside the lines, and he's sketching, and he's drafting, and I didn't like this color, so I'll put that color on it. And all of this idea of, I was so stressed on getting the right answer and not willing to explore it's good enough to go. And then an hour later, he's being super creative. And so why is this? And, that search for grades and the right answer seems to be the right thing. So my question became, what would happen if I disguised a science project and called it art? And would that label of art give them freedom to not get the right answer, look for the right answer? And so this picture was taken after he graduated. He went off to university. He went to Carleton. And then this is him on Christmas break, coming back, working on a project that he started but didn't finish from high school. And it's a set of electronics. And on the display that you can't see is a set of DNA rings that codes for insulin. And then as you move towards it, it's got a motion sensor on it, and it moves, it tracks through the sequence as if it's a human scroll bar. So he became addicted to it enough that he was willing to give up his Christmas vacation from university to work on a high school project that he hadn't finished. So that was kind of fun. So my very first attempt at this was to go and spend some time looking at insulin. This is old. iPads were fresh into the classroom. I had the first iPad in the school, and this was our first project with it. So this is a sculpture of insulin, and trying to use X-ray crystallography and some sciencey things to create a sculpture around insulin. Then a couple of years later, I had 4 girls who were not necessarily interested in physics, but they were in my physics class, but they were interested in doing a little bit of drawing and doodling and a little bit of art and a little bit of painting. And so we looked up Ruben Margolin, And I wonder if this video will play. I hope it will play. There we go. And so this was the first 3D printer east of Montreal that we printed this on, and they created this little thing. And 2 out of the 4 students ended up doing a engineering degree, which was kind of fun. So we had those 2 experiences, and I want to keep going. Next slide. There we go. We had those 2 experiences, which is really nice because I ended up having a chance meeting with a guy by the name of Rob Gorbett, who's become a good friend of mine now. And he worked at the Philip Beesley Studio, which I'm proud to say that he's also become a good friend. They're fantastic people. And the Living Architecture Systems Group through the University of Waterloo. And they were talking to me about how he's an electrical engineer, but then also an artist. And they have these international installations all over the world. Right now, they're putting one in Delft University. There's a big one in the San Diego airport and all over the place. And so this was really cool, the combination of science and art. But I wasn't ready for it. I mean, I was ready for the inspiration, but I was not ready to actually enact it. And this was probably 2016. And so then something terrible and magical happened. A pandemic happened, terrible thing. And then as we're coming back, our education system was basically saying, do whatever the heck you want. Just get kids engaged and do something. And this was a chance for that idea that happened way back when to pop out. So we video Skyped. We came in and did some videotaping. And so then there's Rob there. Half of my class is at the top, joining us online, and half my class is face-to-face. And we decided to build this contraption. And we didn't really know what it was, but it had some laser cut. So this is laser cut cardboard right now as a rough draft. And you'll notice that it kind of it's narrow at the top and the bottom and kind of comes out. On the left-hand side, there's a map on a blueprint, kind of what that might look like. And that will become important a little later on. Joined half of us through Skype. We had to learn a whole bunch about electronics. And so we had to do some soldering and some Arduinos and electrical engineering kinds of things to make these sculpture that would have lights as well as sensors on it. We had to worry about architecture now. So we had to figure out where the I-beams were and cinder blocks and how we were going to install this thing. That's what it would look like. We ended up using our laser cutter with reclaimed acrylic. And so this is them looking under a microscope to see if our acrylic that we were using was okay. And we found some interesting things about depositing of vapor onto our plastic. So it's us trying to figure out cracks and stress factors. Turns out that peeling the acrylic is really therapeutic. Our pickers and our fidget people really love it was great when I walked in and said, I've got 300 pieces of stuff to peel. And they just went crazy on it. And so here's a number of pieces that are being put together along with the recipe. Now, here's where I want to kind of take a moment. As they're building this thing, and they've got these different V shapes that fit together, they had 3 different shapes. And so you can see what the recipe was. And because there was a number of people building it, there was a mistake. They made a mistake right around 7, 8, 9, 10. And what it did was instead of being narrow at the top and then wide in the middle and then narrow at the bottom, it was more hourglassy. It had a waist. And most of the class came in and that's terrible. That's horrible. We got to start it all over again. The right answer is normal, normal, wide, 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 normal, 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 right? And the recipe, it's not right according to the recipe. And then a couple of students sat there and went, wait a minute. What if we made the mistake on purpose over and over again? We could create something that had a waist to it, an hourglass. And what if we made the mistake deliberately? And so this changed from it's not right according to the blueprint to let's make mistakes on purpose. And that was so exciting for me to be able to figure that out. And I'm kind of watching my time here. So we ended up having these different kind of mathematical questions on how we could have different shapes. I'm going to breeze through some of these. Here's our circuit board that we made, learning how to solder. The mess of wires, I think they kind of look like nerve endings and a spinal cord of some kind. Doing some testing to figure things out. And then here's some pictures. Now, this is an interesting story. This person, on the left-hand corner, they have a piece of software that they designed that would change how the lights twinkle. So when the trigger happens, lights would come on and off. But how do they come on and off? And so without having to learn how to code, these people made a piece of software that would allow us to make light profiles. And the student on the right experiences anxiety quite severely. And so her pattern that she created was all about what she experiences as she goes through an anxiety attack. And she goes on this 5-minute long speech about how it goes bright and then dark and then calm and what that all looks and feels like. Other students did their interpretation as they're coming back from the pandemic. I'm really nervous about coming back from the pandemic. I'm really nervous about being in school. I'm really excited about being in school. So they created patterns of this is what I think excitement looks like. This is what I think anxiety looks like. So that was kind of fun. This student, he was in a science class. His parents told him he was going to be a STEM guy his whole time, and he was going to be an engineer perhaps, or a doctor or something like that. And he was a great kid, a little bit of a pain to teach because he was all over the place. Didn't do very well in class, but we had to go down to the shop and have a piece made. And he'd never been in the shop before. And so this is our shop teacher who took some time out, showed him how to lathe. His world changed. I can talk about ratios and I can talk about speeds and I can talk about hardness, but then I can also create something with my hand. So he graduated, didn't go anywhere after that, came back and did and upgraded for a year, and then went and took all shop classes, and then went off to college and is doing great, doing his high-end college lathing stuff. There's Maddie. We got some more science on how we would make these bright with diffraction, so trying to figure out how we would trigger some of these. And so this is the first Leo, Alpha Leonis. How much time do we have? Okay. And so that's what was our first thing. And you have this kind of little shape. So this was really paint by numbers. Lots of learning happening, and we'd put the waste in, but really it was just a lot of coaching from the studio and helping us out. Then we decided to go out on our own. So we started making some maquettes and some models on what things might look like. And so on the right, we came up with this shape. And then we kind of did the waste thing again. But we created our own parts this time. So instead of just using parts that were given to us, we started making our own. And then we ended up making gamma. And so this was kind of a cool little thing. I think it looks like 2 atoms in an electrostatic field, maybe 2 planets in a gravitational field. Other people thought it looked like a dog toy, but oh well. This is another set of drawings that we're brainstorming that came out. And a student said, is it okay if I take some of these pieces of plastic and go out on my own? Can I have my own thing? All the other ones have been built by groups. Can I have my own thing? I said, sure, no problem. So she started going and building these pieces, and she used them in a way that was not anticipated by this world-class studio, these 2 PhD engineers, and she was using the pieces in a way they didn't expect. She just started building and playing, and they said, this shouldn't happen. This should not be stable. It shouldn't work. And yet it is. And so they ended up flying to us and seeing what the heck we were doing. And it turns out that was 4 years ago, and it's still hanging. So there's Etta, and this torque that's happening on the pieces is uncertain. And so we think that looks like string theory. We'll move ahead here. What's in the name? We didn't have a name for this thing, so we had to try and figure out what a name was. So one of the students started drawing, and they came up with this base plate. So on the left-hand side, you can see one of the drawings of our parts. And so they came by and said, maybe it looks like the mane of a lion. Our mascot is a lion, so Leo makes sense. It's a backwards question mark, which is a great thing for a school to be in. And while we're having this conversation, another student was sitting there minding her own business, having lunch. And so she starts to sketch. And so this person had spent a whole year trying to sketch. And then in 10 minutes, a second person just happened to be eavesdropping, drew what's on the right, which became the logo. So there was an interesting conversation about how important all that hard work was by one person just to be scooped, or maybe better, inspired to do the final logo. Well, there was lots of late nights after hours. There's a video that we can play, but I'm running out of time. I'm already way past time, so we'll skip that. This is a presentation we did at Boston College, sorry, on a art meets science kind of thing. They're talking about climate change, and so we did this. We often sat after school. So this is at 9 p.m. probably on a Tuesday night after they ate a bunch of pizza. This is an interesting story about Ethan. Ethan didn't know what he wanted to do. He thought he was going to be a tradesperson, and said that's great, that's awesome. But I also know that he had a pretty cool math mind. And so I asked him to make this tool on the left that would make some parts for us. And I said, can you use Tinkercad? He said, well, I did a grade 9 and I don't like Tinkercad. I hate Tinkercad. I said, yeah, but I need a part and I need you to do it. And I'm hoping you can do it for me. And so he tries it. I go in at night. He makes the design. I stay after school until midnight, laser cutting these stupid pieces of plywood, because I needed to make sure that his hard work showed up in physical reality on his desk the next morning. And so the next morning, of course, he assembles it and it's not right. So then he designs it again. And I stay until midnight the next night and print out the new parts. And it's not right. And on iteration number 4 or 5, he finally says, I think I like this tinkering thing. I think I like this changing thing. I like this trying and exploring, and we don't know what the right answer is. I think I like trying to figure it out. And then my response is, I think you might be an engineer. No. University's not in my future. I'm not smart enough to do that. I can't do that. I can't afford that. He's just finishing up his 3rd year of engineering. And so that's one of my favorite stories. This is Mu. So this could be an exploding star or a virus. And then this was another group of 2 students who said, again, let me back up. This was Mu, worked on by a bunch of people, but again, it was kind of paint by numbers-ish kind of style, I would say. Whereas 2 students said, I want to go completely different. So we had to have the conversation of, in order for them all to fit together as one great big thing, they needed to be cousins, not twins, not strangers, but cousins. And so they were able to go and create their own pieces because they were interested in dopamine addiction. And so this is their representation of a dopamine receptor molecule. And then you've got dopamines on the side, and at the bottom, there's not many. So only a few dopamines give you a good high. And then as time goes by, you have to increase your number of dopamines to get the same high. And so what does that look like? So they created their own cool parts that, again, should not have really existed.
We have the SAI.
And this is the new one that's coming in. So we're the last of the install. They want to do something around a brain. And so they're trying to figure out how to make this light wiggle.
Still pretty.
And the electronics aren't quite working. And then they finally figure out that the electronics are working, and then they got to figure out what size this is. So eventually this is going to be an idea.
Same output on an SAI at 80.
So eventually it's going to be a brain, and then they'll spark an idea and a neuron will happen. And that'll be that. That has expanded to other cool projects. This is completely separate from Leo, but not really. And so this is a depiction of matter and antimatter, and it kind of flows. And we were able to go to a gallery. So we actually so this is a physics student at an art gallery doing a professional gallery talk. And there's a video there, but I'm way out of time, showing what this looks like. And here's a picture of us on December the 27th. Ethan is in his second year of university. Kirill is in his first year of university. Anne is in grade 11. The two Webb twins are in grade 10, and Allison is in grade 11 at that point in time. And then she went on to do engineering. Kirill just won a big project as a first year student because he could think differently. And Ethan is, well, you already know his story. And these three were in my room last night until about 6 or 7 o'clock last night working away. And that's supposed to be the last slide. A quick little thank you to all the important people, plus this network, this group of people. And I think I'm a little bit over, but just by a couple minutes. Da-da-da! Whew!
Thank you, Ian. That was wonderful to go through that project and some of those amazing things that the students did.
It was a sprint.
It was amazing. And one of the things I'd love you to mention as well was the light project that you did that ended up going overseas.
Oh, yeah.
The light, that was a really cool. Just the last, just kind of tell a little bit about that because that's so exciting.
Yeah. So that project, my first couple years of teaching, I remember it so well. Students came in and said, "Hey, Mr. Fogarty, why are we studying circuits?" And my answer was an honest, terrible answer. Because the binder that I inherited from the teacher before me has circuits in April. The curriculum document says we're doing circuits in April, and there's a test already set up. We're doing circuits in April. Terrible answer, but it was honest. And then a student 5 or 6 years later came by and said, how was your summer? Terrible. And so she told me a story about Haley and Maria. So she went to the Dominican, met Haley and Maria. They want to be doctors, but because they live in light poverty, they don't have access to clean light. So by the time they get home and do their homework, they can't do their homework. They can't do their homework. So our students, I threw out the labs, I threw out the black line masters, I threw out the word problems. And instead, when we came in, I pretended I was going off script. And so the students think we're going rogue. And if I pass out black line masters and word problems, then we're not going rogue anymore. So that rebelliousness kind of feel is lost. So I pretend that we're going off on a tangent. And we say, here they are. We put their faces up on the board. Here's the problem. Can we fix this problem? The first option for them was, let's have a bake sale. Let's do a fundraiser and send lights. So no, we're going to make lights. So how many batteries does it take? Where should the batteries go? How should this all work? And so then we built these batteries, these lights. But then it was part of the empathy part. How are they going to use them? So we were able to go and figure out, should they be held like a flashlight? Or should they be used for reading? Are they going to be used for washing dishes? How are they going to be used? So then the students then have to create different cases that get 3D printed for different purposes. And that's a really interesting spot because they have to talk to the students and ask them questions. How are you going to use this? And try to understand things. And then the creativity comes in. Well, is it going to have a stand? It's got to be functional, but how is it functional with a minimal amount of plastic, minimal amount that's durable, that builds on stuff from before, which is kind of fun. And so now we send out these lights, and at the bottom, underneath of every light, there's the name of the person it's going to. So a student here knows that if they don't do a good job, that Mohammed or Jose or whoever it is, their life isn't going to be as good because they didn't do a good job on their light. And so that's been fun, and that's gotten some pretty good attention.
That's fantastic. Thank you for telling people about
Current Generation is called www.currentgeneration.org.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Open for discussion now and questions.
It was a sprint.
No, it was fantastic. Thank you.
I think I want to go out and get a 3D printer.
Yeah.
They're so much better than right now. Like in the last 2 years, they're just amazing now. The stuff they can do.
They have improved. Natasha, you've got several people lined up there.
I think Dean was.
Things that I've noticed with myself, anyways, and as I was listening to you, and here I'm getting inspired again because of you. Thank you, Ian. Is when I talk to authors, when I talk to painters, when I talk to script writers or movie makers, and now to people who teach. Initially, there is this meniscus, this surface tension of, okay, I want my students to to think independently, to use what they've learned, but how do I do that? And as I listened to you, it's as if each time you make a breakthrough and think of an idea, it actually becomes a well-rehearsed ability to notice opportunities and to then act on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. The first few years, it was just trying to survive. And then there was that one thing that just sat in the back of my mind, like that wasn't great. And then all of a sudden the stars would align and I'd be bored enough and the connection would be made between the thing that they said and something that was said 3 or 4 years before, and then something comes out. So if it was too late for me to make an impact on Angel, but the next time a different Angel comes in, I've got an answer for it. And it's true, I get better at it as I go, where I can pay attention better and see better and hit different students and create different things, which makes it really tough in my room because I now have 30 different projects happening in the same room, and they're all different, and there's no space or money, and so people who come in my room are very anxiety because it's just a mess of chaos everywhere, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Brad.
Oh, how did you know I was just going to put my hand up? I was thinking about the embodied part of Leo. I love the Odyssey because of the journey that these take you on. But the idea of embodying, like I can think of, I also have a physics degree, but I've been teaching a lot of math. And when I offered to some students to do an art project using equations, just changed their attitude towards math. Math was no longer being done to them. They were controlling it.
Yes.
And when you create these open-ended things and all those times that kids were saying, I'd like to, well, they own that. And then the learning is so much richer. And when you start to see all the students gathering around and you get the peer support because people are interested in your project and your interests. A story, I can't remember if I shared it here before. I did have my grade 11s doing these art projects using equations and controlling the equations, and they had to map it out and plan it out and everything. But I ran into one of the girls who had gone from a C plus to an A in math because all of a sudden she's an artist. And she had used 18 parabolas to draw perfect rows. I could do the math. I couldn't have drawn the rows. But 5 years later, I told her that, oh, it's so sad that someone broke in and stole all my calculators, my graphing calculators and my computer, and your 18 equation rows I no longer have a copy of. And a tear formed in her eye, and I thought, oh no, you remember my rows, she said. And I said, vividly, because it just amazed me. And when we just provide opportunities for them to start to stretch,
right,
it's amazing. Thank you. So like I say, Ian, you're not alone. I'm
Good,
in the same background and I love it.
Awesome. Well, we might need to continue this conversation afterwards. Yeah. I run a summer program called SHAD, and it's very engineering STEMish thing. During I had been at UNB for 19 years. Now I'm at STU doing the A in STEAM, which is really outside of their brand. And so trying to figure out ways to do math with art. So I might knock on your door.
That's great.
I really like how you said that we don't allow ourselves to get bored. And I think, like so many of the kids, they need that time to get bored so that they can be thinking, and that's great. Sorry, Brad, did you have your hand up?
And
Hi,
also
yeah. Hi there.
go
Yes, I do have my hand up. So I'm coming from the artistic domain. Uh, and you mentioned is it your brother who is teaching
Yes.
downstairs? Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, in the artistic environment, we are encouraged to make as many mistakes as possible. Humility comes with the work. Um, and I'm recently going to college now, and I'm 55, so I see the younger generation going to college now. And you can see the students that are geared towards what are my deliverables? What do I have to do? How many percent is it? How many words? And I think sometimes they get caught up in the curriculum. As your father was saying, teach the teachers, not the curriculum. And I think it all comes to something that I like to mention about bringing out the creativity in all people is creating that safe environment for them to open up to. And if their mind is always about the curriculum and the marks, then they'll feel stunted and outside of themselves right
Yeah.
away. So creating that safe environment is where you can make the mistakes and feel proud of them. And all of this embodiment that you're doing with the art and the engineering is very interesting because I used to dance a number with a ring that was suspended from the ceiling, and the bottom of the ring was at knee height, and I danced through the ring as it spun. So
Oh,
my movements had to be with the ring or against or on a curve that I would not get hit by the second side of the ring coming back on me.
right, right.
And I'd been approached by several academics over a couple of years throughout the shows that I did, and always saying, "Wow, what a fantastic demonstration uh, of physics in motion." And I also had the chance, I don't know if you know of this man named Michael Motion. He was a juggler that juggled inside of a triangle with tennis balls. And if you look him up, he was able to, I think he won a Nobel Prize for the demonstration of, I guess it was physics. I can't remember. I'm an
Right.
artist. I don't know I don't remember those things, but um, yes, that's a fantastic path that you're on, and you yourself have created that safe environment. And that's that third space soft skill that students need as we're saying that people students may be less creative and more
Mm,
boxed in. Um, but yes, creating that environment, I think, is
yeah.
hats off to you, and it comes from the people.
Thank you. It's and from a science, engineering, innovation point of view, it's really important because the skills, and I don't think I mentioned this, the skills that's required to be a good science student are not the skills required to be a good scientist. Right
That's right.
now, the skills required to be a good science student require you to get the right answer, get to this, get to that, and right, and not being comfortable with living on the edge of curiosity, right? Because
Yes.
you get them done, get them done, get it done. How much is it worth? Get the lab done. What's the rubric? But yet, real scientists dabble in the unknown and they play. So, real
Yeah.
scientists looks a lot more like the art room than it does look like the science classroom,
Right.
right? So I find that an interesting juxtaposition against the skills that we're heralding and promoting in
Mm.
school don't match the skills required to do the job.
Well, it brings me to a comment that my dance teacher told me amongst other dance students. And they said the only difference between Bradley and the other students is that Bradley thinks that he's very good. And because of the confidence, you go out on a limb.
Yeah.
Anyways, there you go.
Thank you. I think there were some other people. I think Goran and Michael had their hands up as well.
Yeah, just very briefly building on what Natasha and Brad talked about. I love the piece about, being bored, and as you so beautifully said, Brad, creating the space for something, because at the beginning of the presentation, there was this fascinating observation that, we're seemingly less creative. And why is that? Because we seemingly have never had more tools, quote unquote, around us. So this
Right.
curious paradox. And then, looking through these wonderful examples around creating spaces for doing something and creativity, and provoking, participation through fascinating questions while actually allowing exploration and a little bit of meandering. So it's interesting because I certainly had this impression that this ability to, not do the AI thing, which seems to find a shortest path from A to B, or whatever you want to call the first point and the last point, there's a kind of a loss in that center where we lose the ability to meander and to discover for ourselves. And in your presentation, as you said, to kind of iterate. So I really loved how this was a wonderful example of creating and holding spaces while using the latest technology, and yet kind of encouraging creativity in a very interesting way. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful comments. Michael, did you have your hand up? Your mic, you're muted.
I did, Mary. Thank you very much. Ian, a very exciting evening you presented for us. The results of all the work you displayed have in themselves not only the benefits of the play that you referred to in scientific and science circles, but they're also pieces of aesthetic wonder. And so we turn the circle around. You've actually created a bunch of art objects which have inherent individual and unique aesthetic value. And when you talk about the nature of that aesthetic value, you're opening up new questions, new conversations, and new thoughts about the artistic process. So it's an amazing circular journey you've been on, and whatever else they are, they're objects that can open us up to new language about the nature of aesthetics. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for those comments. It's been really interesting because we have a public theater that's inside our gym, inside our school, and so it hangs right outside the theater. And originally, the theater really just wanted a set of lights that flicker on and off at the end of intermission. That's what they originally wanted. I said, no, we're not doing that. And so now we have these sculptures that are all sitting together as stars in Leo, and the conversations now are open up to the general public. And so now there's, what is this? What is that? And so we have, senior citizens walking out, having conversations about supernovas and string theory and, those kinds of interesting conversations as they decide it looks like a dog toy. So yeah, that communication of science to not the student creators has been an interesting process too.
Fantastic. Other questions, other comments?
Jackie.
Yes, thank you. Hi, good evening. Ian, thank you so much for that powerful presentation. I have a question for you that it struck me particularly about the young man who thought he was going into trades, and nothing wrong with going into trades.
Nope.
But the fact that he was able to play and to explore and to, tinker along, and then to see himself now in engineering. I wonder what it feels like for them as well as for yourself to be turned on to a possibility that they never thought about, in terms of seeing themselves having the capacity to strive in a way that takes them into creativity, imagination, exploration, and to discover themselves newly. So, what does that feel like for you to provide that space, that safe space that folks have mentioned, but also for them to discover, for you to be a witness to them discovering themselves newly as well?
That's a great question. And I think you can hear it in my voice. It is the reason why I continue to teach. It is the reason why teaching is the best thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a kid pivot, it's just, and you can see it happen. Like sometimes it happens in just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Where the kid is working along, they're working along, and he's frustrated at the thing that didn't work because it's his fourth or fifth time doing this stupid tool that he didn't want to do, but he's doing it as a favor to me because I asked him to. And then all of a sudden he goes, I think I like the puzzle. I think I like the thinker. Like that wasn't planned. There's no test for that.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's why I stay at school almost every night till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Kid wants to stay after school. Heck yeah. That is the reason why teaching is so awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that passion and sharing with them. Thank you for that.
Yeah. It's great.
Mm.
Yeah. It's the reason why some of the other times when everything is just terrible, that those things are amazing. Yeah.
Well, and I find it so fascinating that doing something he doesn't want to do and failed multiple times, but kept going, right? So to be able to have that place where you feel comfortable to make mistakes and don't give up, right? Like I work with younger kids and, in grade 1, no, that's it. Like first, first mistake. And the fact that they just keep trying is amazing.
Yeah. But he's in my math class beforehand and he wasn't doing very well. Or he didn't think he was going to do very well. And he didn't talk to me a whole lot. And then I came by and was looking at a question that he did on slope, of all things, slope. And I said, oh, that's a really interesting way you did that. Nobody else did it that way. That's really cool. And I didn't think anything of it. He held on to that. And so then all of a sudden, my teacher thinks that I'm a cool person. From then on, every time I asked him to do something, he did it as a favor to me. Right? On the stupid offhand comment. And now, my teacher believes in me. If he asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. I didn't know he was going to like the thing or not. I just took a gamble and said, let's give it a try. The student needed the tool. I needed to find it if he liked it or not. Let's give it a try. And it worked out.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions?
I did see Mariah had her hand up, but she took it down.
Oh, Maria. She does have, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ian, for this beautiful presentation you did today. And thank you, Mara, for bringing him. I just wanted to say that it's beautiful to see the progress of the students with time and how they use creativity and then they go deeper. It seems like creativity is addictive, right? Because the more you create, the more you want to create, right? And I think when you start seeing correlations between areas like math and geometry and then art, it seems like it gets more complex and more interesting. So, Ian, from your perspective, I want to ask how the critical thinking emerged in your classes through creativity. If it was possible to bring, this idea that they can shift into a critical thinkers and kind of create their own world through the experience of creating the models you were showing.
Right. So part of it is we go on a very deliberate process, and it's probably a process that maybe we've seen before. But then I think the big deal is when they decide that, Fred I think said, was that it wasn't something that was done to them; it's something that they use as a tool, right? And so now, because it was art, it's not on. There's no task. There's no right answer here. This is something that we can do. And all of a sudden, I don't like doing slope, but now I find slope in order to do the thing that I want to do. And now I got to learn how to do slope. And so it's been really great that way. And you have to be open to the idea that, and this is going to be the hard part for many places. I work at a great school and a great district that allows me some freedom. I don't know where it's going to go. And so I don't know what parts I need. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know whether I need a widget or a gadget. And I need it quick. And so I've been really fortunate to be in a place where partway through the semester and all the money's spent and I need a thing and I need it in the next 48 hours. And somehow people find the things for them, which is really empowering to the kids too, because they know somebody just spent money on an idea that I had that we don't know is going to work or not. And so, gosh darn it, I'm going to make sure that it works one way or the other. And my room is full of lots of fails. So I have a lot of things around the side where a student tried this and it failed, and a student tried that and it failed, just so that they can see that it's okay to fail. And oftentimes a failure from 3 years ago, a kid is going to pick up and incorporate into the thing this year. So it sat for a while as a failure, and then all of a sudden it's part of something really cool.
That's amazing. Unfortunately, I hate doing this, and I don't know how, but we've reached that magic time in our evening where we must bring things to a close. So I just want to thank you for all of the discussions, and thank you, Mary and Ian. This was amazing. I really liked the phrase aesthetic. The aesthetic wonders. Like they're just amazing, and it's hard to imagine the art and the math together. We want you to know that Scenic is socially connected. So check out our website at www.canadiannetworkforimaginationandcreativity.com. Find us online for more information and links to register for idea jams, bios, view our past idea jam sessions and chats, and other helpful information about what's coming up. You can find us on YouTube. Look for us under Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity to see our past idea jams right at home or on the go on your phone. As we close for the evening, we thank you again for joining us for the past hour and making time in your evening here to share with us. Be back with us again next month for our last idea jam of 2025, but not the last of our season. It will be on December 18th. And as a reminder, all of our idea jams take place on the third Thursday of the month. So mark them on your calendars. On behalf of all of us here at Scenic, thank you again for spending your Thursday evening with us. We thank you for sharing your creativity and imagination with us, and we look forward to seeing you again in December. Good night and have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.